Gerald, would it be okay to share your comments about your career in this Hall of Fame presentation?
All right. I'd just rather talk to Goodwill folks than almost anybody else because I'm your kind of people and I'm associated with a great many people who work at Goodwill.
How did you become involved in Goodwill?
Well, it was this way. I was a ministerial student at the theological school connected with Northwestern University, and my first appointment was to the Centenary Center, a sort of neighborhood house and church on the north side of Hammond, Indiana.
What was life like in the United States when Goodwill started in Hammond?
The Depression was just getting real bad. There was nothing to do. Men would sit around houses cold because they had no fuel, and dark because the lights had been turned off. We decided we had to do something, and since I had heard of Goodwill Industries through Methodist connections and had gone to visit the one in Chicago while I was in school, we decided to call it Goodwill Industries and start from there. Walter Logue, the executive then of Chicago, was very helpful.
In such a difficult time, how did Goodwill start?
Certainly was no conventional start because we had no money. The First Methodist Church in Hammond solicited their people to pay $4 per acre to buy standing scrub oak timber at Snyder, Indiana. And we put our idle men to work cutting the wood, and we'd haul it to the churchyard up on Gosselin Street in Hammond. And there the other men were able to cut stove-length wood. In that way, we paid each man a certain amount of wood for a day's work. The climate among the people improved almost immediately.
How could you operate a business without money?
We operated the Goodwill for 3 years without any cash wages. We just paid it in script. And when we opened the store in the third year, the script could be redeemable in the Goodwill store. It was very small. On the first opening day of that store, in mid-afternoon, I recorded, without any apology, that our total sales were $3.20.
Tell us a little bit about your experience becoming involved in the national organization.
There used to be a gathering in Boston on March the 4th, I believe. It was always horrible weather. And money was so scarce and I was so frugal, I went all the way to Boston on a bus. They were having a bus war. The fare from Chicago to Boston was $10. But I was excited, a wonderful thing. Here I'm with no travel experience, not much of any kind of experience, but a live kind of fellow, you know, looking to learn all the time. And I had a sense of humor, too. And it was very thrilling of me to take that long trip to Boston, Massachusetts.
Tell us about Gerald Clore, the young Goodwill CEO.
I was young and inexperienced, and I didn't know what couldn't be done, so I went in at the end of the World's Fair here in Chicago. It ran 33 and 34. Near the end of it, I went into the big office of the World's Fair, and I went to the boss and I said, we're the Calumet Goodwill Industries down in Hammond, and we need a lot of lumber and plywood and sheet metal, and you've got a lot of it here. You're going to tear it down. You got to get it off of the front of the lake here, and we pick up discarded articles, and I want you to give us the fare. Now imagine the nerve. He said, son, it runs from 22nd Street to 63rd, for heaven's sake. How much of it do you want? I said, I want the whole thing. We didn't have any truck yet, but the Lord will provide. And so they said, well, we can't give you the whole thing, but we'll write you a letter and let you know.
How did that work out? What did they give you?
They gave us the Wings of the Century, a beautiful thing, the big, long, hard rubber-tired trailer. So, of course, it was our job to get it down to the Hammond Goodwill Industries. And we were just barely starting. I had a trailer hitch on this little lightweight 4-cylinder 32 Plymouth. And I hitched it on that big long riverboat. Oh, it was 60 feet long, I guess. And came right down State Street, just happy as a lark. The men were sitting back there on the boat watching the scenery. And we didn't get a permit, we didn't have police escort, we didn't have any insurance, we didn't have anything, but we're coming down. We got 63rd Street, but the pilot house up on top of the boat was going to bump into the elevated. So the men knew how to do that. They got there and cut off the pilot house, put it down on the lower deck, and we came right on, and we made the first truck body. We finally got enough money to get a new truck, $700. And we made the truck body, and then made the store fixtures and a lot of things like that.
After being CEO in Hammond and St. Paul, you moved to the Dallas Goodwill, which had just been destroyed by fire. Why? And what did your family think of the new Goodwill?
I was glad to get out of the cold, I'll say that. And my family came down from Minnesota in 1942 when we pulled into Dallas at just early dusk. Why, I just had to show them the wonderful Goodwill Industries before it got dark. And nobody said a word. I said, oh, there it is. And my 6-year-old daughter, Bernita, said, well, all I see is a pile of bricks and ashes. And I said, oh, no, the front wall is still standing, and there it says Goodwill Industries. And then she asked a question, and it's a stopper. She said, Daddy, is that all there is to it? Well, that almost chokes me up when I say it. There's so much more to it, you know. No, honey, I said, that's not all there is to it.
After recovering from the fire, you continued to step up to national leadership.
I got on the national board following the delegate assembly in Dallas in 1946, I believe it was. We'd been on the job here 4 years then. We had everything spit and polished, I tell you, painted up. They kidded me about the paint not being quite dry. But we had a good meeting, and some years after that, we were so aware of housekeeping that we began to talk about the dirty 30. I guess there were maybe 40 or 50 Goodwill Industries in America by that time. Very delicate, was it? But it got attention. You had to be a crank about housekeeping to keep Goodwill Industries looking decent.
What was the primary method used by the national organization to support individual members?
The area leader system. I had a territory all the way from Birmingham to Albuquerque and from Kansas City to Corpus Christi.
As your leadership grew beyond the Dallas area, what else did you do?
I also started 16 Goodwill Industries in this country, counting the 4 in northern Indiana. I helped to start 9 Goodwill Industries in South America, and we trained 15 executives in our Dallas Goodwill Industries.
You are known as Mr. Goodwill International, and the International Award has your name on it.
I guess nobody has any different idea, except that Clore has been most visibly and audibly the advocate of the international dimension of Goodwill Industries.
When did you retire, and what did you do after 38 years as a Goodwill CEO and as Mr. Goodwill International?
I retired in '69, I guess it was, and I simply took on raising money for the international, my hobby, and I raised just short of $500,000, which kept the international department going.
How might Gerald Clore be remembered in the future?
My son one time wrote me a Father's Day letter, and he said, what I notice about you is that you will take off on the most unlikely project with apparently never a thought of failure. My answer to that is, of course, I heard our founder himself. And I was kind of a hero worship with Dr. Helms. He said, failure? Why, there can be no failure as long as you're working together for the kingdom of God. I still believe that.
This is George Kessinger. Thank you for watching this Goodwill Industries International Hall of Fame presentation on Gerald L. Clore. The Goodwill Industries International Hall of Fame is located at its Member Services Center in Rockville, Maryland. For more information, please send email to contactus@goodwill.org.